when you're giving a speech, it's important to connect with your audience. And you might be thinking, Tim, I know that, I get that, I understand that, I know what that's all about. But do you really think about it? Do you really think about what that really, the connection with that audience is? How to do it best? Connecting with your audience is so important, and it's so easy to get off the track. A lot of speakers think, yeah, I'm connecting with my audience. And yet, they look out in their audience, they notice people aren't paying attention, their eyes are glazing over, and they're just not getting it. And maybe then the speaker wonders, what's happening? Why aren't they making this connection? Why isn't everything just coming together the way it should? Well, it's because you're not connecting with your audience. And when you don't get that connection, things go bad pretty quickly. Maybe you've experienced that. You're not quite sure what's happening, but somehow, some way you're thinking it's not quite there. Just not quite making that syncing up happening. Maybe you think, well, it's just the way it is. Nothing I can do about it. But there is something you can do about it. There actually is something definite you can do about it. You want to think about, be aware of, and to practice. When you start working these things, you can make that connection to the audience happen. And not only happen, but happen more efficiently, more assuredly, more directly. Get everything coming together. Because these three things are going on. Now, of course, you're thinking, Tim, there's a lot of things you can do to connect with the audience, and that's true. But if you focus on these three things, it can make things a lot simpler. You're trying to really go for that deep audience connection. Because sometimes it's up there and it's just a simple matter. Sometimes the matter is more complex. Sometimes it's something you're not thinking about at all. And if you're right now thinking, audience? What audience? I'm there for me, baby. It's all about me. Well, then this particular session is for you. If you're going up on stage thinking it's all about me and you're not aware of your audience, that's a recipe for disaster. Got to be aware of your audience, thinking about your audience, and how to make that audience connection happen. Make that deep connection just happen. How to make things click. You know how when something just clicks? You may have heard that expression, it just clicked. You'll know how that works once you start using these things to make sure you've got that connection going on with your audience. And the first thing is pretty basic. Something you should be aware of, but not all speakers are. Not all speakers are really thinking on that sort of a level, as basic as it is. Second thing is something that many speakers aren't aware of, and they really don't focus much on. Because they're probably just so concerned in their own world and doing what feels comfortable, they're not really aware of how everything all kind of fits together. The third thing, well, most speakers don't get that at all. They didn't think about it. And so somehow that perfect presentation of theirs starts to crumble away. As they look out in the audience and they just see the eyes glaze over, they're thinking, what went wrong? Well, many times it's that third thing that just didn't work. So today you're going to learn about that. It's about these three different things, each one going a little bit deeper, each one getting a little more complex, going into the nature of who your audience is, what it's about, where you're really going with this, and thinking about things in a whole different way. If you're a, it's all about me, baby, speaker, maybe this will open your eyes to thinking of things a little bit differently. Because making that connection with the audience is so satisfying. And as great as your ego rushes and just being on stage, making that deep, lasting connection with the audience, that's the real presentation high. That's when everything just kind of comes together and you think, man, that really clicked. It begins with them. Making that deep connection happen with your audience is a challenge. But it's something you can do. Especially if you think of this first thing. Very first thing to think about before you even really give the speech. Before you even get that topic. Before you even accept that speaking gig. Something to think about. Something to be aware of and focused on. When you do focus on this, you're ahead of the game. You're at least going in the right area. You've got a chance to really make sure you make that connection. It's a simple thing, but it's a powerful thing. If you leave this out, well, you'll be left out right at the very beginning. You won't have too much chance with the audience at all. The first thing you want to think about is identity. Identity. In other words, who are you talking to? Who is this audience out there? And that's really important. Who is the audience? And you can say, oh, they're all sorts of people. They're all over the place. Well, maybe they are. But if you're giving a conference to a specific type of person, like a doctor's conference or a lawyer's conference or a business executive conference, you've got a much better idea of who's in your audience than just a bunch of people. Who really is out there? And who's out there is important to understand because that'll tell you who your speech has to be for. If you're speaking to a bunch of lawyers, you've got information about medicine, there better be something legal in there. Because you're talking to lawyers. Lawyers! They don't care about medicine. They care about lawyer stuff. So you want to make sure that that happens. The identity of your audience is crucial to understand. Because once you get that identity down, then you can start going from there. But some speakers get out there not really knowing or thinking about who their audience is. They just think, here's my speech, same speech I give to every audience, they'll like it or not. Maybe you're wondering, Tim, does that mean I need to create a whole new speech for every audience out there? Well, you could do that, but you don't have to. But even if you don't create a whole new speech, just make sure some part of your speech lets your audience know they're the right people. Give some examples relevant to this audience. Make sure something in your speech is relevant to the audience. So when they think, who is this for? The audience will start thinking, yeah, it's for me. That's the identity part. Making sure you understand who is in your audience and your speech has to do with those people. You give a speech that's for somebody who's not in your audience, well, that's not good. Right from the very beginning, people think, not for me. Nope. Don't know who it's for, but definitely not for me. I'm not interested. Because people make up their minds about a speech like that. Like that. 10, 15 seconds in, they decide, is this for me or not? So if you know it's for them, that's great. Then everything in that beginning part of your speech, you'll want to say, okay, this is for you. This is why it's for you. This is how it focuses on the things you're interested in. Which means you kind of better know something about your audience. So if you're going to target it for them, you got to think, okay, yeah, great. This is for me. It means take those examples. Make sure those examples are relevant to your specific audience you're giving it to. Now, if you're giving it to a general audience, just anybody, okay. But if you really want to drill it down, even with the general audience, there has to be some specific thing you're looking for. So if you're giving to a general audience, it could be about anything, but that doesn't mean your speech is about anything. Something in your speech will have to click with the audience. If it doesn't, they're not going to be interested. So general audience, you give a general speech. Specific audience, you give a specific speech, but at the very beginning, you let them know this is for you. The speech is for you, it's designed for you, it's all coming together for you and what you need. And that's what it's all about. Making that connection with the identity of your audience. Now, once you have the identity, then you want to think about something else. All right, you're focusing on identity. You're focusing on who that audience is, which is great. Wonderful. Keep doing that. Make sure your speech is for that particular audience. The audience thinks, yeah, speech is for me. It's for me. It's about things I care about. It's relevant. It's definitely for me. So identity part is taken care of. Now, if you just do only that, that's good, but it's not good enough. You want to do more than that. You want to go further than that. You want to go further, deeper into it than just that. Identity isn't enough. You need something else. You need to think about a little bit other things going on. So who they are, great. But if you don't do the second thing, it's really not going to work. Because sure, you know who they are and your speech is for them, but what about your language? Language. You want to speak the language of your audience. Whatever that language is. Now, that doesn't mean that if you aren't a doctor, you don't drop in all sorts of technical medical jargon type things. That's not it. You're not, if you didn't get an MD, you don't want to sound like you are an MD, but you should at least understand the language that they know and be able to speak it in a way that they understand, they talk about. Just because you're speaking to doctors, they're not going to expect you to know everything about it. After all, you didn't go to medical school for 8 years. But they will expect you to understand a little bit about their business and how it works. And the language they use every day. The more you understand that language and how that language works, better off you are. That means being a little familiar with some medical jargon. Study a little bit of medical jargon, talk to people who actually are doing things out there, understand what language level they're using, and then you use that in your speech. If you're speaking to lawyers, same sort of thing, know the legal language. Again, you didn't pass the bar, so unless you did. If you did, great. If you didn't, it's okay. But know that legal language and how people normally talk around the business. That's really important. Also, even if you're speaking to a general audience, understand the general audience's language level. Unless you happen to be speaking to a bunch of academics in an academic council, if you're speaking to a general audience, in general it's best to speak to a very basic level of language. Not too many complex words, not too many complex ideas, just a basic level of language that will connect with as many people across that audience as possible. Being aware of that language, how that language works. And that means if you aren't talking to a specific audience, then you want to make sure you keep it really simple, basic, short words, easy to understand, saying them clearly, deliberately, then people will get it. People understand. Say, okay, yeah, I get what you're talking about. Now, if you talk too fancy, that fancy talk just goes right over people's heads. They think, oh, you're just trying to impress me. Impress me with all your learning. All your learning and stuff. I ain't impressed by no learning. Well, that's the thing. If you're just trying to impress your audience and show how much better you are than them, that's not going to connect with that audience. So keep that language basic, common, short, easy to understand words. Keep everything very basic, very simple, so people get it. And that means you have to understand what language people speak out there. So you have to do a little bit more research. So if you have research about who's going to be there, you have to have research about what level are they going to be communicating at. What are the most common things they say to each other? What are some common expressions? Understand those. And then, you've almost can make that connection with your audience. You just need one thing more. All right. You have identity. You know who the audience is. And you have language. You know what they're talking about. Those two things are powerful. You take identity, language, put them together. That's pretty good. And that'll help you make that connection with your audience. But there's something else going on you want to become really aware of. And especially if you're one of these speakers that thinks, hey, it's all about me. One of those speakers, you want to pay attention closely to the next part. Because this is where you have to kind of step out of yourself and take a few risks that maybe you're not comfortable with in making that connection with your audience. And that is, you want to think about with T. With T. That's W-I-I-F-T. What's in it for them? You may have heard of Withy, what's in it for you, but it's not about you. In fact, if you learn nothing else in your speaking, learn it's not about you. It's about them. It's not about you, the speaker. It's about them, the audience. What's in it for them? And if you can't answer that question, if all you can say is, well, it's what I want to talk about, I presume they want to listen to it, then you're never going to have that audience connection. It's just not going to happen. Because you're too involved in your own world to really be able to relate to the people who are in front of you. If that's the case, you just might as well get off the stage. But if you can focus from yourself to them, what's in it for them, and ask yourself, with T, that's powerful. Hopefully you think there's something in it for your audience. If you're going to get up and talk about something, you want to make sure that something is something that your audience cares about, that matters to your audience. And what you say is something that can actually help them build, develop, and grow in some way. If you do that, you think about with T, what's in it for them, that can go a long way. And if you're struggling with it, so, well, Tim, I don't know what's really in it for them. Well, think about that. Because that's going to be something you'll be talking about in your speech somewhere. What your audience is actually going to get out of this thing you're talking about. What's in it for them? Start making a list. Okay, here are all the things you're going to get out, the audience will get out of from what I'm talking about. Now, it's important to understand what this audience gets out. You could be talking about a product, and maybe it's a wonderful product, but if your audience isn't the people actually buying that product, you don't need to sell them on the product. You just need to figure out what is it they really want. If you're talking about a product to a bunch of people you want to back the product, your point isn't, hey, this product is going to improve your life this way and this way. No, no. Your point is customers are going to want to buy your product so much that if you invest in this product, you're going to make a ton of money. That's what it's in it for them, making a ton of money. They really don't care about the reasons why your customers are going to buy the product. They just want to know the product will be bought. Someone's going to be buying this, and they're going to make money out of it. That's what investors care about. The investment. Of course, you're talking to the customers of the product, and you want to talk about how it makes their life better, how it saves them money, it saves them time. How it makes some part of their life more enjoyable. These sort of things. That's what you want to talk about. But and always with T. What's in it for them? Think about that. Be clear on that. Sure, it may have benefited you, but it will benefit your audience the same way. Now, if it benefited you and you know it's going to benefit your audience the same way, great. One way or the other, know what they're going to get out of it. you're giving a speech, you want to make sure you connect with your audience. The first thing to think about is identity. Identity. Who are you talking to? Who is out there in your audience? And what sort of things are they really interested in? Thinking about this is very important. Even if you give the same speech, still, you want to let the audience know this is speech for you. This is your speech. This is all something that you're going to be interested in. That's really important. Who are you talking to? Who is the audience out there? And that's really where it begins. Once you know who you're talking to, who it's out there, then you can start to do something about the speech and start to make some things happen. So who? Then the language. What's the language you're using? Language is really important because if you don't speak their language, they're not going to pay attention. You've got to speak the language of your audience. It doesn't mean you need to be an expert in everything your audience is an expert in. If you are, great. But if you're not, that's okay. Just be familiar with the language. If you're giving a talk to a medical conference, make sure you know something about how medical people talk. Giving a talk at a legal conference, make sure to know something about how legal people talk. Hey, if you happen to have an MD, great. You can speak all that medical talk, fantastic. If you happen to have a bar, you can speak all that legal talk, great. But it's not required if you just understand the language. If you're speaking to a general audience, very general, well, then you want to make sure you're talking simple, direct, easy to understand. Talk too complex, you'll go right over the heads of everybody. And they won't appreciate it. I think you're trying to make it sound really fancy. Trying to make yourself sound smart and them sound dumb. So just talk at a very basic level. And then finally, you've got identity, you got language. Now think about with T. What's in it for them? What's in it for them? So now you know who you're talking to. You're targeting your speech at them. Great. But make it really clear about what they, your audience, is going to get out of it. Your audience needs to know they're not wasting their time with you. That there is a reason they should be paying attention there. There's a reason why they should be listening to what you have to say, what you're talking about. Really important. What's in it for them? What do they get out of it? That's really crucial. Being aware of your audience, what your audience gets out of things, all of a sudden, they get it. They're like, oh yeah, I get it now. I know what I'm going to get out of this. I know why I should pay attention. I know why I'm here. What's in it for them? And if you do those three things, you got your identity, you know who your audience is, you understand them. You can talk to them in a language they get, they understand, not too far above their head and definitely not too far beneath them. Just something most people will get in your audience. And what's in it for them? You just nail them with, okay, these are the things you're going to get. You will learn, you will discover, you will find out. Wow. You're going to have an audience experience maybe you've never had. You notice people's heads nodding out in your audience. You notice that thinking look people get when they're really deeply paying attention to what you're saying. You start feeling all that energy coming off your audience in waves as they get it, they understand, and they want to know more. It won't be the ego high. It'll be a connection high. Because remember, it's not, hey, it's all about me. It's all about them. And when you reach out to them and they reach back to you, that connection is powerful. And you can feel it on stage. You start thinking, okay, yeah, I get it. I get what you're talking about. I get what's going on. And when your audience gets it, boy, that's a great feeling. That magical connection, you think, it was all worth it. Identity, language, with T, it's all worth it for this moment. When that happens, you feel that deep audience connection, you'll know you really made a difference in their lives.